Golf Smarter number 699 is brought to you by Autoslash.com, who can help you find the lowest rate possible for your next car rental. The Lost Art of Putting and the 6 Putting Principles, Part 1, with co-author Gary Nicol.
This is Golf Smarter, sharing stories, tips, and insights from great golf minds to help you lower your score and raise your golf IQ. Here's your host, Fred Green.
Welcome to the Golf Smarter podcast, Gary.
Thanks for having me on, Fred. It's very kind of you.
Well, it's very nice that I received a notice from your book publicist about your book, because this is a book that came out a year ago, and publicists don't usually continue working on the books a year later. But boy, am I glad I found this book. It's called The Lost Art of Putting, introducing the 6 putting performance principles. And I really want to talk about this today.
Well, I think the most appropriate aspect of this call is we're actually celebrating our first birthday. We launched the book 1 year ago today.
Oh, well, happy birthday. Everybody sing along.
Yes, thank you.
We'll put a candle on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just don't set fire to it until you've read it.
Yeah, well, I'm not reading it, actually. I'm studying it.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, I'm taking my time with it and getting through a lot of it, and I continue to go through it. And then you co-authored this book with Karl Morris.
That's correct, yes. Karl and I have known each other for a long, long time. We both worked with various tour players over the years, and quite often we worked with the same player at the same time, but in different locations. So while Karl was working on getting the guys' head in the right place and getting his thoughts clearer, I was trying to help with their golf game on course. Mm-hmm. So the combination of the two was kind of quite a strong mix, if you like. So, we worked together a bit over the years, and then the last 3 or 4 years we started to collaborate on a few golf schools and master classes and things, and we started to, we were kind of, what led us to write the book was we'd seen so many guys falling by the wayside, really talented players at all levels, especially the top level, who were kind of falling down the rabbit hole in this endless, relentless, pointless almost pursuit of perfection when it came to putting. Everyone's trying to perfect their stroke and perfect the way they stand, perfect their alignment, but ultimately what was missing was what they were actually doing with the golf ball. So we kind of addressed what was the missing link, which we believe was the golf ball, because everyone talks about the technique, but the golf ball was largely neglected. So we put together a little program based around the 6 principles, or what we believe are identified as our 6 putting performance principles, if you like. And we started to do some golf schools, and we just found the results were incredible. And the book, we hope, is the least technical book on putting ever written, because it's not really a how-to book. We're not telling you you must do it this way or that way. What we are doing is giving you some ideas as to how you can find your way. Mm-hmm. And we found that to be, I think the word we hear more than anything is liberating. So, we're liberating people from, or taking the handcuffs and the shackles off people who are trying to do everything so perfectly.
Yeah.
By just actually being a bit more instinctive.
And perfect is such a dangerous, dirty word.
It's a hideous word, isn't it?
Yeah, because it doesn't exist.
It sounds very alluring. No, It doesn't exist. Well, it does in some people's minds, but I've yet to come across it in reality.
And you've been teaching this for how long?
Yeah, 30 years.
Yeah, and you haven't come across it.
What does perfect look like? Perfect's an opinion. Perfect's an opinion, isn't it?
Wow, yes.
It's someone's perception of what is right. People ask me, what's a perfect golf swing look like? Well, one that gets the job done. What's a perfect putting stroke look like? One that gets the ball to go in the hole. There are 1,000 ways of doing it. We've both seen enough golf over the years and played enough golf over the years to know that there are 1,001 ways of doing it.
Wow.
But it's finding the best way for you as an individual, which is really what the book is all about.
Yeah. Actually, there's 2 lines in here that I want to quote to help us move along with this. First of all, You have a line in here: the quality of your putting will be determined by the quality of your questions.
Yes.
Okay, so that hopefully that's no pressure on me. It's because it's like, oh boy, now I got to ask the questions, and it's like I'm going to be judged here.
Yeah. Well, no, but the questions are really straightforward. I mean, ridiculously simple almost.
How so?
The first question we ask is it possible the ball could go in the hole?
Yeah.
Until someone builds a bunker, a brick wall between your ball and the hole, it's always going to be possible. It might not be highly probable, but it's always possible. So straight away, by asking that question, your attention is now on what you need to do with the golf ball, not what you need to do with the stroke, not what you need to do with anything else. Is it possible the ball could go in the hole from wherever you are? Yes, it's possible. So the next question, the lead on from that was, okay, especially in putting, is it possible you could hold this putt? Yes. So the next question would be, okay, what does the ball need to do in order to go in the hole? Well, it needs to travel on a line at the appropriate pace.
Right.
So it's really, they're two pretty straightforward questions. The great thing about questions is they get your attention. They get you into the here and now. Now, we all know that golf is very much a game of attention, having your attention in the present. Now, the human mind is great at traveling into the future, and it loves to dwell in the past as well, but neither of these places are great for performing a specific task, i.e. trying to hold a putt. So by asking the question, is it possible? Yes, that makes you feel better straight away. And then the second question, what does the ball need to do? You then start to focus on what the ball needs to do. Not what you need to do, what the putter needs to do, but what the ball needs to do. So we believe that, and we've seen more than sufficient evidence to support this, that the task creates a technique, if you like. So rather than think about creating strokes, we encourage the people we work with and the people who read the book to create putts rather than trying to create strokes. And once you start to think about putting as creating putts, it's amazing what can happen. It really is incredible what can happen.
I get in my own way all the time with putting.
Don't we all?
I don't know. I know that I do.
Typically, standing over a putt, what goes through your mind?
What goes through my mind?
Yeah.
Hit my mark, follow through. Lots of things. Clearly, lots of things about...
Probably a lot about what you need to do and what the putter needs to do.
Exactly.
But not a whole lot about what the ball needs to do. Would that be fair?
No, I think there's definitely moments where I'm thinking, I don't need to hold this. I just need to get it close. I just need it to be right inside there so I can tap it in, which alleviates a lot of pressure on me.
Yeah, and quite often when you're only trying to roll it up close, it just drops in the side door or the front door or whatever it is.
We hope.
Almost by mistake.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, putting is such an individual aspect of an individual game. I mean, you just need to look at some of the modern guys playing on tour at the world-class level. I mean, Matt Wolff last week, what about his golf swing?
Yeah.
Fantastic, because it gets the job done. It's very powerful, it's very dynamic, but he's very accurate with it. You know, he's learned how to get the ball to do what he wants to do. Now, how you do it doesn't really matter as long as you can repeat that and keep doing it. And a putting stroke is very much the same. But again, when you get someone who's trying to perfect every single aspect of the putting stroke, I mean, how many times have you tried so hard to get the line, get your putting stroke going straight back and straight through, all of a sudden you forget to hit it and you leave it 3 feet sharp. There's nothing more frustrating.
Right.
Because we've not really taken much consideration about what the golf ball has to do. So first and foremost, you know, by asking questions, they ground you in the here and now, but they actually put your attention in the correct place at the appropriate time. Because we've all seen guys who've got beautiful putting strokes, but really can't putt terribly well because they have no concept of pace, because they get so tied up in the line. One of the other principles we talk about in the book are line and pace. You know, basically the two component parts to any putt are line and pace. But when we ask people which is the more important, initially they would say, well, line, you've got to get the line right. But then they sit back and think about it for a moment or two. And then they say, well, yeah, pace is quite important as well, isn't it? So we would suggest that without the pace, the line doesn't really exist or can't really exist. Pace has to be the key component.
Yeah, yeah. I love when I'm with new golfers and we're out on the practice putting green. I get into a conversation, find out they're a new golfer and they're working on it. And I love asking what's more important, distance and direction. And inevitably, new golfers especially will always say direction.
Yes,
and are quite surprised when you inform them that not as important as distance.
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
No, not necessarily. And what we tend to find is that most golfers of all levels, again, are much better at line than they think they are, but a lot worse at pace than they think they are.
Mm-hmm.
Purely because they are paying more attention to line than they are to pace.
Yep.
So by simply basically directing your attention to pace, you can actually improve very, very quickly. You can become much better at pace purely by paying attention to it. I know it sounds a bit simplistic, but it's so true.
And what is it that we're paying attention to?
Sorry?
What is it that we're paying attention to when it comes to pace?
Well, distance. When was the last time, for example, you were in the middle of a fairway and you're going to hit your second shot into the green? Would you ever hit that shot if you didn't know how far you had?
No.
No.
Absolutely not.
When was the last time you hit a putt that you didn't know how far it was?
Right. I walk them off. I definitely count them and walk them off, and then then there's too much data in my head at that point.
Right, okay. But then you've got to take into consideration, is it uphill, is it downhill, is it breaking left to right, is it going right to left? Very few people, one of the things that we've discovered is that very few people take enough time to actually assess the putt fully or correctly. You know, most people will read the putt from down the line. Now, I don't know if you've ever done this, but I'm sure you have 1,000 times. Hit a shot that's bang on line with the flag from the middle of the fairway, and you think, oh, that's close. And it looks from a distance like the ball is resting against the flag. But then when you get up to the green, it's like 20 feet short.
Yesterday.
So that depth perception changes when you look purely down the line.
Yeah.
If you go to the low side of the putt, all of a sudden you can see the putt at its full length. You can see it in widescreen. You can see it in 3D or 4D. And you can see it in high definition. So when you look down the line, purely down the line, the putt generally looks a little bit shorter than if you look at it from side on. So let's say you were standing over a putt that looks like it's 10 feet from down the line. By the time you get round to the low side and have a look and stand far enough back so you've got ball and hole in peripheral vision, that putt's probably grown about 2 feet. But if your brain only sees 8 feet, it's going to tell your body to apply as much force as is necessary to make the ball travel 8 feet. That's mainly why people tend not to be very good at pace, because they don't really take enough time to gather correct and good information. Mm-hmm. So green reading is another one of the principles in the book. And again, if you read any kind of green reading instruction, it's generally about the line and generally about the start line, because that's quite easy to teach. Mm-hmm. Pace is difficult to teach. Mm-hmm. Pace is difficult to coach. Pace is difficult to learn. You've got to experience it. You know, we can put all sorts of start gates and mirrors and putter alignment aids on the ground. But ultimately, if, as we believe, pace is the key component to any putt, you're not really paying enough attention to the pace. All these gadgets and training aids are very much about focusing your attention on the line.
There's a moment in the book where you even talk about if you're going to toss a ball to somebody, underhand, overhand, just tossing it. You don't walk it off. You don't measure it out. You just look at the person and you toss it to them.
Yeah, because instinctively we know pretty much what to do.
Mm-hmm.
But if I were to teach you how to throw a ball and teach you about wrist angles and supination and flexion and how you transfer your weight when you throw a ball and how you should clear your hips when you throw a ball, you'd probably either miss me by about 10 feet or take one of my eyes out throwing it back to me. Because all these technical thoughts will get in the way of your natural ability to perform the task.
Right. And
so,
that hurts us. That hurts us with our putting.
No question. I'm not saying it hurts everyone, but it hurts more than most.
Yeah, yeah. I want to get to that second quote. It's actually on the back cover, but first let's take a quick break because this episode of Golf Smarter is brought to you by Autoslash.com. Take a quick time out because this episode of Golf Smarter is brought to you by Autoslash.com. Now, one of the points that Autoslash loves you to hear about is that their users, they save about 30% from other car rental booking sites. The couple of times I've used them, I actually did save just around 30% from the time I first booked the car till the time I picked up the car, which is that critical period where the prices fluctuate on car rentals. We've heard Jonathan talk about it. But I think 30% is quite a lofty claim that you can save that much. So when I was talking to Autoslash CEO Jonathan Weinberg, I had to ask, 30%, really?
I can actually think of a few instances where we've saved people over 80% on their rental, either by finding amazing coupons, discount code combinations, or by continually dropping their rate over time. In fact, I can remember one customer who had a one-way week-long rental from Chicago to LA, and it started out around $1,400. A lot of that was due to the fact that there was a very significant one-way fee. Many times with one-way rentals, the rental car companies will charge a one-way surcharge fee. And over the course of 6 weeks, we were able to get the rental down to about $250. So the total savings on that rental was about $1,150. That's enough to pay for dinner for his entire trip. So 30% is average savings. There are many customers who save much more than that.
Oh, I just love his passion and enthusiasm for his product, and I hope that it's working for you too. As a matter of fact, if you've had experience with Autoslash, whether it's positive or negative, please let me know. We've been talking about them for months, and I'd really like to hear how it's working for you. Again, that's Autoslash.com. Remember, they're not a rental company, but a free online rental car booking service that tracks your upcoming reservations, then finds the lowest rates for your next car rental. The next time you're planning on renting a car for business or pleasure, check out the free service that is Autoslash.com. That's AUTOSLASH, Autoslash.com. Right, Gary, thank you so much for your patience. So I was telling you there's a couple of quotes in this that jumped out at me that I wanted to share. And there's one on the back cover that just resonated with me. I loved it so much, but I want to go in depth with you on it. And it's basically the line is that on the cover it says, "The Lost Art of Putting," which is the name of the book, "will help you become more childlike on the greens and less childish."
Yes.
Love that line.
It's a good one, isn't it?
It is a good one. Let's talk about the difference between childlike and childish. Childish on the putting green on the golf course.
Or in life in general.
Or life in general. Okay, well, that's a different podcast we're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. It's an entirely different podcast.
Right.
To be childlike is to have a simple fascination with how you're going to get the ball in the hole. So, for example, we do kids coaching, whatever. In fact, a prime example, we had a group of university students from Hong Kong visit us at Archfield the other day, and I did some putting with them, and I basically explained to them the object of the exercise was to use a putter to roll a ball into the hole. I gave them no instruction. I hit 2 or 3 putts just to give them a brief demonstration, but there was no real explanation. And I just thought it'd be an interesting experiment to see how quickly they could adjust and adapt and find their way of doing it. And they did. They may have hit the first one 6 or 7 feet past and missed by a foot to the right. By the second time, they'd got a little closer on line and a little closer in pace. By the third or fourth, if they weren't holing them, they were scaring the hole. They're burning the edges of the hole. So without any intervention, without any explanation or instruction, they just learned how to do it. And when you learn how to do something, that sticks. And it was really all down to, having a childlike fascination with how am I going to get this ball to go in the hole. So without really thinking too much about it, these kids were standing in all sorts of ways, shapes and forms and holding the club in different ways. But very quickly, they learned how to get the ball to travel in the right direction, at the appropriate pace. Which they were all kind of expecting to be, they were kind of standing in line expecting to be told to do A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. But then when we gave them the freedom to actually find their way of doing it, you could see their faces light up straight away. They loved it. But to be childish is to expect a certain outcome and then stamp your feet and curse and swear when the ball doesn't do what you want it to do. And we see a lot more of that, of the latter, than we do the former, unfortunately.
Unfortunately. Oh, so true.
Yeah, it's true, isn't it? So, when you ask a kid, do you think you can hold this putt from here? They say, yeah, watch this. Watch me do it.
It's not what we say.
No, it's not. Yeah.
I'll try.
Oh, really?
Yeah, right.
I'll try, yeah.
I'll try.
But I'm not a very good putter.
Yeah.
So if you carry the story of being not a very good putter, guess what's going to happen?
You're going to miss the putt.
You're going to miss the putt. Yeah, we talk in the book a lot about the thinker and the prover. What the thinker thinks, the prover proves.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're carrying a story of being someone who normally has 3 or 4 3-putts in a round, so if you've not had any 3-putts by the time you reach the 13th or 14th, in the back of your mind, you're thinking, well, I've not had any 3-putts today. Yeah, I've not finished yet, so I'll probably have 3 or 4 in the next few holes. And guess what? Your brain and body will go in search of evidence to support that. And you can turn around to yourself and say, see, told you so. Told you that would happen. Told you always have 3 putts. So, yeah, we kind of live out the story we tell ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's a story I'm trying to erase from my head about birdie putts. I'm really good at sinking an 8-foot second putt, but I'm not good at sinking a 4-foot first putt. I know this is all in my head.
Why do you think that is?
That's why I wanted to have you on the show.
Well done. Threw it straight back at me. Basically, we don't like giving things away.
I don't.
Exactly. We don't like giving things away.
Yeah.
So we focus that little bit harder because a birdie would be lovely. It would be really nice. But you don't want to make a bogey because you really want to make that par because you don't want to be giving a stroke away. You don't want to be giving a shot away. So it's about preservation almost. So we want to hold on to what we've got. If we get something that's a bonus, then yeah, that's nice. But it's almost like you're placing more importance on one putt over another. Mm-hmm. But no shot should really be any more important than any other. Because every shot is unique. Every putt is unique. It's at a different time. It's a unique moment in time.
Yeah.
But when we go to practice, what do? We practice our stroke. So, for example, just a quick question for you. How many golf balls do you take to the putting green if you practice your putting?
4.
4. Any particular reason?
No.
Okay. So,
I can't fit 5 in my hand. When I reach in the bag. There's your reason.
You only have small pockets.
Yeah, exactly.
So, when you have 4 balls on the putting green, basically use the first one as a bit of a range finder.
Okay.
And then the second one, the first one may have missed a little bit long, short, left or right. So you kind of learn from the second one. And you might get a little closer with the second one. By the time you come to putt 3 and 4, you've kind of learned a little bit about how the ball's going to behave. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately on the golf course, we do not have that luxury. There are no second serves. You don't get a second chance, do you?
No.
So one of the big skills in golf and putting is predicting how the ball's going to react, how the ball's going to behave. But if you are using 3 or 4 golf balls, you've kind of lost it. That opportunity's gone. Because when you're on the golf course, you're allowed 1 ball, 1 putter, right, at a time. So you can only use 1 putter to hit 1 ball at a time. But if you're training yourself with 4, to putt with a second, third, and fourth chance, when you come onto the golf course, all of a sudden you think, oh my God, I don't have a second chance of this. So better do something here. Plus, if you've got 4 balls lined up in the putting green, how much attention do you think you're actually going to pay to the first one, knowing that subconsciously knowing you've got another 3 attempts at it? You're probably not going to pay too much attention. As I say, you'll use the first one as a bit of a rangefinder, and then, oh right, I'm going to learn from that. But we don't have that luxury on the golf course.
Yep.
It's interesting. When we ask people to tell us how many golf balls they use to practice, the standard number is 3. And their explanation is, well, they come in sleeves of 3. So yeah, there's a little bit of logic there, but
yeah, of course.
It's not really helpful.
Well, let me tell you about my practice putting when I go out before a round. But first, let's just take a quick time out. Okay, Gary, when I walk out to the practice putting green, I'll reach into my bag, and this is before a round. It's I'll do a little bit of putting and chipping before I hit a bucket of balls. Then I'll hit a bucket of balls. Then I'll go back out to the practice putting green, and so I'll reach into the bag, and I can grab 4 balls in my hand at once, and I'll drop them down. And here's how I do it. I'll find a flat area, and then please, I want you to pick this apart. I'll find a flat area, and then I'll just take 4 of my normal strokes, right? I'll just take, without looking at the ball, without lifting my head, without seeing where it's going or anything, just to try to get a sense of what my normal stroke will be on that green that day. And then I'll walk it off. It's like, okay, today's a 6 step, right? That's my own I call my own personal Stimpmeter. Okay. So it's like, okay, today it's 6 steps. Oh, wow, it's 8 steps today. The greens are really fast. Oh, it's 4, it's really slow. It's that kind of thing. Then, once I figure that out, then I'll just look across the green to no particular specific target, but to the fringe. And I'm a long putt. It's like, let me see what it feels like. How much do I have to, how quick do I have to make my stroke, or how far do I have to go back to try to get it on a long distance putt? See what that feels like. Yeah. And then when I get a sense of the distance, good. And then I'll take those 4 balls and I'll surround a hole with it at about 4 to 5 feet. I'll put, at 12, 3, 6, 9 o'clock. And then I'll just walk around and putting, short distances, just to get a sense of the ball going in the hole. And can I get the short putts? Because to me, those are far more important than the 30-foot putts that everyone seems to like. They'll put them they'll put it in the hole, then they'll bring it out of the hole and putt to the next hole, right? So there's a lot of space there, and it's like, I want to practice my distance control. That's a different thing. I just want to get these short putts in because those are the ones that kill me at the end of the day. Okay. And those are the ones like when people say to me, "Oh, wow, you got a birdie putt." Don't tell me that.
Yeah, I know that. I don't need to be reminded.
Right. I'll tell you after I make it if it was a birdie putt or not. Okay?
Exactly.
All right. So I'd love your feedback on that kind of practice drill.
I like your system. I just think you're doing it with too many golf balls.
I see.
Because when you're putting from wherever, the middle of the green to the fringe, to the surround, then, again, if you don't learn from if you don't get the first one right, chances are you're going to be better second time round, and then better third time round, and even better fourth time round. But again, we do not have that luxury on the golf course. And knowing you've got that second, third, and fourth chance, you're not going to pay too much attention to the first one. Now, by all means, if you're going to use 4 balls, putt to different parts of the green, not always in the same direction, because every putt is unique. But if you're training your mind and your body to hit 3 or 4 putts the same time after time after time, then you're going to get a shock when you get on the golf course and you don't have that luxury. You don't have that opportunity. So every shot, every putt has to have your full attention.
Right. This book
so, every shot must have a purpose.
You really, this book is a lot about mindfulness, which is so popular in so many different realms of life now. But I feel like we've been talking about mindfulness on this podcast since day one, hence the name Golf Smarter.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, well, everyone talks about working harder. We're big believers in working a bit smarter.
Yeah.
So just because you're hitting 4 putts doesn't mean to say you're working harder.
Right.
I think you work harder and you work smarter if you use one ball.
Wow.
Because that's what you got on the golf course, right?
Yeah.
That's what you're allowed to take on the golf course. When you miss the first putt on the first hole, you don't go straight across your bag and bring out another 2 or 3 until you hole it. That's not allowed the last time I looked in the rule book.
Well, you got to play by our rules. And another thing that I do on the practice putting green is after I feel like I've warmed up and I've got some putts and got some feel to it, I'll say to my playing partner who's probably out on the putting green as well, it's like, let's compete. Let's make it worth something, because that's what because when you're doing this, it's like there's no pressure. It's so easy to do it. It feels so graceful. And then all of a sudden, when you put that there's no context. And as soon as you put that pressure of, I got to beat you, then all of a sudden your head is in a very different place.
Correct. And your attention, when you're playing competitive putting games, your attention will shift very quickly from your stroke to what the ball has to do. So without realizing it, you've actually redirected your attention to what really matters, what the ball has to do. So if you're on the putting green, you're working on your stroke, and there's no context really. It doesn't really matter if the ball goes in or not. There's no pressure because it doesn't matter. But as soon as you challenge someone to play for a drink, lunch, or $10, whatever it may well be, then you think, oh, right, okay, now I'm going to really pay attention to what I'm doing. And that's when you learn how to putt. Mm-hmm. When something, when you're playing for something, because straight away, I'm sure you will start to hold putts. If you don't hold them, you'll hit them pretty close. You're not going to leave yourself too many 3-4 foot second putts, because your intention is to get the ball in the hole because you want to beat the guy you're playing against. So without really realizing it, without consciously making the effort to direct your attention to what the ball needs to do, you probably are on some kind of subconscious level asking these questions. Is it possible I can hold this? Yes, otherwise we'd be standing here. What does the ball need to do in order to go in the hole? It needs to have a relationship with momentum and gravity. Not enough momentum, no gravity. Too much momentum, no gravity. So therefore pace obviously becomes the key component again. And then a third really good question would be, what does a really good putt look like? So if I asked you, again, going back to the questions we talked about earlier on, if I asked you the question, what does your house look like? What happens? An image starts to form, yes? Mm-hmm. So when I ask you the question, what does a really good putt look like? It doesn't come up 2 feet short. It doesn't miss the hole 18 inches to the right. It doesn't run 4 feet by. All of a sudden, it's the power of visualization is incredibly strong, basically by creating a really powerful image of what you want the ball to do based on the question you've asked, what does a really good putt look like? That creates a neural pathway. So when you watch golf on TV and they sometimes have this putt predictor that graphically put on the screen, wouldn't it be great if we could see that before we hit a putt? So basically when you ask that question, what does a really good putt look like? If you can bring up that putt predictor graphic overlay, that basically creates a path for you to roll the ball down. That would be hugely helpful. So again, going back to asking good questions, asking positive questions that can provide positive outcomes.
Be careful helpful. Of what you ask.
Well, exactly, yeah, exactly. But if I ask you to visualize a putt, if I said to you, okay, you got a 10-foot putt here, visualize the putt, that imagery would probably be quite vague. But if I asked you what a really good putt looked like, then all of a sudden I would imagine you start to see the ball rolling, or you see a nice line, you see the ball rolling, and you see it falling into the hole at the appropriate pace. And then that creates a neural pathway, so your brain then tells your body how to organize the movement around that in order to create that putt.
Yeah, I've never been a big fan of when someone says, yeah, just 2 inches outside the hole. That doesn't tell me where the ball's going to roll. And so in my mind, when I visualize where the putt's going to go, how do I get it to enter the cup where I want it to because of the fall line or something? It's like I will look at the ground and see how far, where is my access point that the ball's going to start making the move to the other direction, or where, is it straight or not? So I try to visualize how high do I have to get it to where I want it to be.
But again, that's very much dependent on pace, isn't it?
Yep, very much. Because
pace is going to give you options online. Mm-hmm. Pace will give you multiple options. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you're focusing purely on line, that's going to limit you to a certain pace. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So let's say you and we're playing a 4-ball match against 2 other guys. So you're not sure you're not entirely convinced you've got the right read for this putt. And you say, Gary, can you come and have a look at this? I say, yeah, sure, Fred. So you say, okay, I see it 2 balls outside the left, and I see it only 1 ball outside the left. Who's right and who's wrong?
Yeah, it's all about...
We could both be right.
Exactly, because of the pace. That's why even on those graphics on TV, they give you the line. If he hits it fast, it's going to be less break. If he hits it slow, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And sometimes that line can be very wide.
Exactly, and it's rare. They'll have it sitting there, and it's rare that the ball follows that line, and the guy still makes the putt.
Yeah, it's very rare they take the stunt, what I call the stuntman route, where you've got no care for the consequences if you get it wrong. No one takes the most direct route, do they? They're always trying to get the ball. If you look at the best putters in the history of the game, the one thing they've all had in common, they have been fantastic pace putters. Mm-hmm. Ben Crenshaw, fantastic pace putter. Lauren Roberts, fantastic pace putter. Tiger, fantastic pace. Jack Nicklaus, fantastic pace putter. They were always great lag putters. They got the distance so right so often.
And it wasn't about technique.
Well, they all had very different techniques. The 4 guys have just mentioned there.
Exactly. That's why I say that, is that you're talking about pace, and their technique is completely different.
Exactly. But they've discovered their way of doing it, which is, what the book is all about. It's not about, you got to do it this way because we say so. We are giving you some concepts to play around with and personalize and make them your own. That's when you really learn, and that's when that learning sticks.
Okay, well, we're going to wrap this up. We've already extended our normal time, but that's what I love about podcasting.
Exactly.
And so I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to talk to your co-author. I'm going to talk to him tomorrow, but it'll be the next episode. And so I'm going to give you a choice of which of this last 2 questions that I have. You can pick one, and I'll throw the other one at your partner, okay?
Okay, perfect. Sounds good.
There's a part of the book about putter design that I'm really curious to talk about, or provide us with a couple of drills that you love. What would you like to do?
I'll tackle putter design.
Oh, sorry, wrong answer. Oh, no, I'm kidding. It was like a little game show there for a minute.
Yeah, exactly. Correct. You are not through to the next round.
All right, let's go with putter design.
Yeah, putter design. We thought it'd be quite a good idea if we're going to write a book on putting, it might be an idea to get some thoughts on putter design. So I contacted Sean Toulon, who's the head of design for Odyssey, because it would appear they seem to hold more putts when it matters on the tours around the world than any other make. I could be wrong, but that would be the way it appears to me. And they're very innovative in their design, incredibly innovative in their design. But they have set principles about what makes a good putter design, and basically it's about getting the ball to perform the way you want it to. Now, one of their first and probably most successful putters ever was the 2-ball. Now, I don't know about you, but I've used a version of the 2-ball for a thick end of 20 years. Mm-hmm. because I love the way it feels and I love the way it performs. And basically, by moving the weight away from the face, you create a greater moment of inertia, which allows for slightly off-center strikes. Now, you and I both know if you hit it off-center, the face might twist a little, but probably more importantly than that, distance control is going to be really difficult as well. Mm-hmm. So again, it comes back to pace. If you don't hit it out the middle, your pace is going to suffer. If your pace suffers, you can't choose the right line because the right line will not be the right line unless you have the appropriate pace. So when you go for it, I implore anyone who's going to buy a new putter or look into their putting with a little bit more depth, get fitted for a putter that works for your stroke. Don't try to build a stroke around the putter you have, because everyone has their way of doing it, and a good fitter will help you find a putter that works for you. And I think that's where the guys at Odyssey, I'm sure all the other putting manufacturers are doing the same thing. But I really think that the guys at Odyssey really excel in that, because they are always thinking, they're always on the move, they're always trying to get something, they're always trying to find a better way of doing it to get the ball to roll the way you would like it to. So putter design, I mean, Tiger, I know for a fact, loves to release the putter over. So I believe the first time he went on the Sam Putt Lab at address over a 10, 12-foot putt, his face at address was 4 degrees open, pointing 4 degrees to the right of his target. But at impact, it was perfectly square because he likes to rotate the face. Whereas there are other guys who are more straight back and straight through, they would probably benefit from, whereas Tiger uses a toe hang putter, which encourages that kind of movement in his stroke. If you gave Tiger a center shafted putter with the weight away from the face, he would probably really struggle with that. He'd probably miss a lot of putts right because the face wouldn't square up. So he's found a putter that works for him, as all the other guys do. They experiment and they do some testing to find out what works for them.
But a 2-ball is a mallet style, and a lot of people prefer blade.
Yeah, but if you've got a straight back, straight through stroke, or relatively speaking, straight back, straight through, there has to be some kind of an art because of the lie angle of the shaft and the fact we're standing inside the line of the ball. Yeah, do they understand the consequences? They may like the look of the blades, but do they understand how that's going to affect their stroke and how that stroke is going to affect the ball? I mean, I used a blade putter for years as a kid, but then when I went for my first ever putter fitting, I discovered that I'd been using a putter that was 2 degrees upright, 1.5 inches too long, and the wrong shape. And I just thought it was a bad putter, which was always an okay putter, but not an exceptional putter. But as soon as I discovered that I could actually get a putter that worked better for my technique, then, God, what a difference that made. Made a huge difference. And again, as you well know, we all know that putting is very much about confidence. And if you start holding some putts, then you're going to start believing you can hold even more putts.
Yeah.
So it really is, I mean...
But isn't it amazing how quickly the confidence can explode? Like you can be feeling great and you have one missed putt and then you're thinking about that and it just can have an impact, because I think 3 putts ruin a person's day more than bad shots, than wayward drives.
Absolutely. Yeah. So what would be the quickest way to eliminate 3 putts?
Make the second one.
Yeah, very true. Get better at pace.
There you go. Get better at pace.
Because you're unlikely to miss a 10-foot, 12-foot putt 2 feet left or right, but you have much greater chance of you leaving it 2 feet short, running it 3 feet by.
Yeah.
Yeah, confidence is a fragile thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's incredible. You could hold 20 putts in a row, then miss one. Which one do you remember?
The one you missed.
Yeah. So that's
golfers never talk about their great shots. They only talk about the mistakes.
No, well, in our book, The Lost Art of Putting, we quoted Harvey Penick. You know, we only talked about Tom Kite and Crenshaw. Apparently asked them a question before they embarked on their professional careers. They asked them, if there was one piece of advice he could give them, what would it be? And the wise old man, Harvey Perrick, turned around and said, go to dinner with good putters. Which sounds very trite, but what he was saying was, don't hang around with the pity party. Spend time with guys who talk about holding putts, not guys who talk about missing them all the time.
Fabulous. That's a great spot to end it there. Wow. And because we could go on for so much longer, and maybe we'll do this again. We'll do this again.
We'd love to. We'd absolutely love to.
Oh, great. Thank you. Obviously, you could tell by the two different accents here that Gary's not here in Northern California with me, although it sounds as good as it does. But you're in London?
I'm in Edinburgh, in Scotland.
Oh, you're in Scotland. Okay.
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
Well, I'm so glad
I just left work a little while ago at a place called Archerfield Links, which is a wonderful facility, which is basically right next door to Muirfield, one of the most famous and finest golf courses on the planet.
Wow,
and in between Archerfield and Muirfield is a place called the Renaissance Club, where they're holding the Scottish Open this week on the European Tour.
Fabulous.
So we're right in the heart of fantastic golf country.
As we all are. Everybody loves their golf courses.
Exactly, and so they should.
Yeah.
And be grateful for them.
Yes, absolutely be grateful for being able to go out and play.
Exactly.
Again, the book by Gary Nicol and Karl Morris, and we'll talk more about it next episode, is called The Lost Art of Putting. And I'm going to want to talk more about that title and why you consider it an art. But it's not for you today. So thank you.
We'll leave that to Karl.
Yeah, we'll leave that to Karl. Gary, thanks so much for your time and for making yourself available to talk about this. I really enjoyed it, and I hope everyone else did too. Thank you.
Fred, so did I. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Hey, our next giveaway drawing is another opportunity for you to win a $100 Amazon gift card courtesy of Autoslash.com. Sign up at golfsmarter.com and click on the Enter Now banner at the top of the homepage. Deadline for entry is midnight Pacific Time, 3 a.m. Eastern, Sunday, July 28, 2019. And this is also your last opportunity to take advantage of our free offer that it will expire on August 1st, 2019, just as we publish the next episode. If you'd like to get a free online version of Tony Manzoni's video, The Lost Fundamental, all you have to do is submit an honest review for either Golf Smarter or Golf Smarter Mulligans from wherever you subscribe to either of those shows. Once you've posted your review, email a copy to me of what you wrote and where you published it. Then once I see it online, I'll send you the link with my compliments. And please, I'd prefer that you not post your comments on social media unless, of course, you have thousands of followers, or even on YouTube, because those are best reviews for just each episode and comments on each episode. But it's when people are looking for podcasts and they want to know a good golf podcast, your reviews really carry a tremendous amount of weight, and I appreciate you doing that. This week on Golf Smarter Mulligans, we meet Dr. Glenn Albaugh, golfer, sports psychologist, professor, and coach to many famous professional athletes and coaches. That includes Pete Carroll, one of the few men ever to successfully win at the pro and college level, winning both national championships and the Super Bowl. Glenn Albaugh's book, Winning the Battle Within, and our conversation can be incredibly helpful for you to clear the mental game demons that keep you from scoring your best. Golf Smarter Mulligans episodes only focus on game improvement, and they come from early episodes of Golf Smarter, which are no longer available on any platform. Well, Golf Smarter is available, but those early ones aren't. So get your free subscription for Golf Smarter or Golf Smarter Mulligans wherever you find your favorite podcasts, including YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, TuneIn, Sonos, Stitcher, Radio Online, and even Amazon Alexa. That is so cool. And, of course, Apple Podcasts. Golf Smarter Mulligans is supported by Autoslash.com and TwoGuysWithGolfBalls.com. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, please click on the Hey Fred button at GolfSmarter.com.